a good American citizen, and I will say this, stands up to their government and is allowed to ask those questions. And that is part of the greatness of this nation, is we should not just believe what the government says to us, but we should be able to engage, push back, and get the truth, because that is paramount to us as a nation.
And now, the latest on the FBI, the Mar-a-Lago raid, and the effect that it is having on our political landscape. On the one hand, we have the Hunter Biden laptop that includes tales of how he and his father may have shared in the profits of Hunter's foreign businesses. On the other hand, we now have seen the raid that the FBI conducted on Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago, a full-throttle armed incursion where even Trump's lawyer had to sit for hours outside the property in the Florida summer heat. Joining us again, Erin Perrine, a Republican strategist and vice president of TAG Strategies. Erin, good to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
Since we last spoke to you, there have been some really important developments in the whole Mar-a-Lago thing vis-a-vis the FBI and the Hunter Biden laptop. We've had a resignation from the special agent in charge of the Washington field office. His name is Timothy Thibault. He has been cited by whistleblowers who have come to Senator Grassley's office as interfering with the legitimate investigation. He has a rich track record as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're only getting to the very start of the questions that you're going to be hearing toward the FBI relative to both Hunter Biden, and I applaud both Senators Grassley and Senator Johnson on their continued dogged effort to get to the bottom of what happened here, but also on the Mar-a-Lago raid, because it seems like with each leak, each small piece of information they put out, the more questions there are and less answers there seem to be. There are major concerns right now, especially in the Republican Party, but across America in general, about whether or not the FBI and these government entities have become too politicized and that is clouding their judgment. You hear the FBI trying to say, well, we didn't want to interfere in another election the way we did in 2016. Well, in 2016, there were FBI agents who were known to be saying, as they were having an affair, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page saying, oh, well, we'll make sure that Donald Trump never becomes president. There is now a continued pattern of behavior that shows targeting toward Republicans and those that perhaps the FBI rank and file, and there are questions about this, don't support or wouldn't support. Those kind of politicized questions aren't just being asked for fodder, they're being asked for legitimate reasons. And like I said, this is just getting started.
No, they are being asked for legitimate reasons. And the reality is, as much pushback as you're seeing against the skepticism is entirely reasonable given what we've seen over the past 4 or 5 years with the Trump administration and the FBI and the Steele dossier and all of that stuff. There has been a little success for former President Donald Trump in that a federal judge appears to be on the verge of appointing a special master, which is exactly what the Trump folks wanted to see happen.
Yeah, they wanted a third-party arbiter who would be able to come in and see what the FBI took from Mar-a-Lago and what information they had no right to have access to. We've already seen 2 sets of reports that have come out. One, that the president's passports, President Trump's passports, were taken in the raid. I can tell you that was probably clearly outside the scope of the warrants that they were trying to execute on. And attorney-client privilege. If they cannot make sure the Trump folks and President Trump make sure that they can protect their equities in this situation, which are things like attorney-client privilege, which should be, paramount in a lot of this. That what we're seeing right now from the FBI is the inability for them to do that, and from the Department of Justice. And so it is critical that when there are questions about what is going on, that you make it as transparent as possible, remove it from those that you might have credibility questions with, and put in a third-party arbiter on this.
Now, could a case be made that the fact that these privileged documents were in the boxes that the FBI confiscated from Mar-a-Lago, could the case be made that that's a reflection of the poor housekeeping efforts on the part of the former Trump administration, that they had these personal privileged documents included in boxes with classified information? Just a bad file system, in other words.
But I mean, who knows? Who knows how this was stored? Who knows if these were in the same boxes materially or if they were just stored in the same location, right? Again, when we ask a question at this point, when it comes to the FBI, the DOJ, the raid on Mar-a-Lago and Hunter Biden's laptop, we're just getting more questions instead of answers. And that is why you continue to see the American people have a continued distrust in government entities and why these questions continue to be raised. And there are plenty on the left that anytime you say, well, Who knows how this happened because we're not getting the transparency and we deserve the transparency. Now they stamp their feet and say you shouldn't question the FBI and the federal government. A good American citizen, and I will say this, stands up to their government and is allowed to ask those questions. And that is part of the greatness of this nation, is we should not just believe what the government says to us, but we should be able to engage, push back, and get the truth, because that is paramount to us as a nation. On
the subject of the Hunter Biden laptop, Mark Zuckerberg made a stunning admission or acknowledgement on a Joe Rogan podcast. And one of the reasons I really love the Joe Rogan podcast is it's a relaxed conversation. And people who are normally on their guard and very tight-lipped and have controlled answers often get lulled into stunning admissions because they're having a natural conversation with the guys who's just curious about things. And Mark Zuckerberg let it slip that the FBI came to Facebook and warned him about disseminating what might be Russian disinformation. Now, we know that the FBI has now said that they did not specifically mention the Hunter Biden laptop, but all roads certainly point to that. Is that your understanding?
That's certainly the understanding. And I have to say, to your point, Joe Rogan is an absolutely excellent interviewer. He does have a very relaxed style. And when he was with Zuckerberg and Zuckerberg said, oh, well, you know, we only moved it down the algorithm a little bit. You heard Joe Rogan ask, well, what was the percentage of the change in the ability for people to be able to see and engage and share in the Hunter Biden laptop story? And Zuckerberg said, oh, well, it was a good amount, right? I mean, that kind of continued questioning when it's not aggressive really can help get to the bottom of it. And you're right. Mark Zuckerberg kind of did let the cat out of the bag here and admitted that the FBI stepped in, warned them about potential Russian misinformation. He did not, Zuckerberg, clearly answer whether or not the FBI was pointing directly to this Hunter Biden laptop story. But once we saw what Twitter did, and now you've seen what Facebook does, there is very clear that these people are no longer just platforms. They're now content moderators. And Section 230, obviously, of the Communications Decency Act needs to be amended and modified here in Congress, because these people are now suppressing information. And ultimately, the case can be made that they influence the outcome of an election, because there is polling now that goes anywhere from 4 to 18% of Biden voters who, had they known about the Hunter Biden laptop story, would not have voted for him. That is federal election interference, and it should worry every American.
Yeah, I think over 70% of Americans said that they might have reconsidered their vote had they had access to that information regarding the Hunter Biden laptop in advance of the 2020 election. So the plot thickens. Erin Perrine of TAG Strategies, really appreciate your time. Thank you. Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.